Okay, well, good morning, and you're very welcome to our seminar on cutting contact centre costs creatively from Premier Business Audio. The purpose of today is to share our ideas, our thoughts, our case studies regarding communication within contact centres, but with a real emphasis specifically to the public sector. Just as an introduction firstly to myself, that's me there on the picture. I'm Kevin Freeman. I'm Contact Centre Development Director for Premier Business Audio. I've probably got two roles in the business really. One, I look after some of our key account relationships to both public and private sector. And secondly, I've been working with contact centres for about 14 years now, primarily in trying to improve the customer's experience when they interact with the call centre. Just a little background as to Premier Business Audio. We've been going for about 20 years, and our niche, I suppose, our high level, I suppose, is if we were to sum up what we do, we're a small agency that specialises in helping contact centres to communicate properly. And we do that in a number of different ways. We operate probably in three high-level channels, and I'm going to talk specifically about two of them today with customer references from the public sector. One of the ways we help contact centres is around the agent or the advisor or the employee and how they speak to the customer or the household when they pick up the phone or they're talking to them face-to-face. And we do a hell of a lot of work around making those people be more down-to-earth, more human, less robotic, less scripted. The second area of our expertise, of our niche, I suppose, is what we call audio communications. And really what I'm talking about here is when somebody bothers to pick up the phone and speak to your business, your institution, your council, what is that experience like? What is that journey all about? From the moment they hear an automated welcome, to the voice they hear, to the language they hear, to the options they're given. If they go through to an automated application, be it to pay a bill or to check a balance, what is that journey like? What happens when they go out of that and they're waiting to get answered? What happens when they're in a queue and then they finally speak to an agent? And I think everyone on this webinar today can give their own personal examples of having that telephony hell of ringing a call centre before you've even got through to an agent. The third area, and again I'm going to touch upon this in the second half of the webinar, is around what we call the visual communications. And we're pioneering the use of video as a tool, as a communication tool for the contact centre to use when they point people to go online to self-serve, to learn more about products or services, or how to set up a direct debit, or what does this letter mean. And we're pioneering the use of using very creative, on-brand video concepts and content that's appropriate to the audience. And that's, in a way, replacing the often jargon-full, text-heavy websites that businesses and councils have. And councils in particular really have a job on their hand because they have so much that they need to tell householders and business in their jurisdiction, whether it be from council tax to the bins to the roads, etc. But unfortunately, time and time again, the website is overloaded with text. Okay, just to set the scene, as I say, today is very much around the public sector, around local government institutions. And we're delighted to say that we work with a number of different organisations. Just to give you a flavour from the public sector, we work with the following brands, and as you can see, they range from all over the UK, really, and we work with those guys in very, very different ways. So with some of them, we are designing the audio experience for them. For others, we're helping with their scripting. For others, we're helping with the visual communication. And for others, we're doing all three. The constant challenge of reducing budgets, the constant challenge of trying to reduce cost, of trying to get your audience, your householders, to self-serve. And ultimately, can you do that and make the actual customer experience positive, engaging? And it's difficult. Here in the UK, we're proud to say we work with Sainsbury's, both to Sainsbury's Bank, which is now starting to really develop on its own 2 feet in terms of its own identity. And we're at the forefront at the moment of looking at redesigning the whole audio experience when people ring Sainsbury's Bank, whether it's to be about current accounts or ringing about savings, etc. And we also provide audio recordings for all the hundreds of stores that there are over the UK. Apart from a couple of examples in terms of the clients we work with, we also work with the major telcos and outsourcers in the UK. So organisations like Serco, Capita and BT. And those companies are using us to give their customers an audio brand identity of their own. So you can see for the Sercos and Capitas and BTs of this world, they're having a competitive advantage. They're not just technology, they're not just about lines and buttons on seats, but they're using our experience and our skills to provide audio experiences for their customers that are unique. Okay, so I've talked about, you know, some of the things that can drive you mad when you're in a call centre, but ultimately what we're talking about today is what is the damage of having bad communication, bad experience. Well, there are a number of ways you can look at this, and this is irrespective of whether your journey is online or whether you've gone into, say, a council office to speak to somebody over the counter, or whether you picked up the phone. There are core things that link all of those experiences together that are damaging if you get communication wrong. The brand. Now sometimes, in my experience, you talk to people in the public sector and they sometimes think that, well, we don't really have a brand, we're the council at the end of the day. Well, no, you do have a brand. The logos that you saw on the pages a few slides back highlight that each of your own institutions have a distinct identity. You come from a distinct demographic area. You have different householders. So it's really important that the brand is considered. And if you think about it, if you have that awful journey when you pick up the phone and ring your local council building, or you go online to find out some really important information, you might be affected by those floods we had last year or something, and you can't find that information, it just makes you angry. It makes bad PR, it reduces trust in the council or in the institution. We've put their competitor benefit, and, you know, is this a private sector thing? Well, I'd argue it's not. Having a bad communication within the public sector does create opportunities for your competitors. So it could be businesses wanting to move to the local area, being put off by the way that your organisation communicates. Therefore, they move to another organisation. Then there's the operation. So your buildings, your call centre, your website presence. Again, thinking of a bad experience for your customers, your householders. If they ring your centre and they get confused by the myriad of options that you've given them to press to go through to all these departments, then they're likely to press the wrong option. They're likely to get lost in this telephony abyss. They're likely to actually put the phone down. Or if you've got big investments in, right, we're going to invest in an automated payment line for our council tax bills. Well, if you don't design it with the customer or the householder in mind, and I'm referring to there the voice that you use, the language, the words, and of course the technical functionality, if you don't do that, then people won't fulfill that actual payment in the automated application. Again, everything keeps coming back to this point about it costs money. These bad communications create big problems for any centre. And the customers, or the householders, or the residents, or whatever you refer to your audience, again, you give them a bad experience. What does it say? Well, it makes them angry. It makes them pick up the phone or write a letter and try and take it out on you, the poor business, or you, the poor council, that's trying to do the job as best as you can. It creates an uncertainty. People then lack trust in what you're trying to do and perceive. And of course, if you measure your customer or your household satisfaction scores, you'll clearly see those fall if you give them bad communication. irrespective of the channel that you interact with, we know that if you design it right and therefore create a good communication, it leads to some real benefits. It reduces needless calls to your centre. It might be something as simple as a better crafted letter that somebody gets on their doorstep when they get home that clearly outlines what a council tax bill is, or, okay, I don't need to pick up the phone and query this. Agent productivity can increase. A better customer journey, irrespective of the channel, increases customer satisfaction. And brand consistency as well. We saw the logos before, we see the buildings, we see the livery of your local vans or your local buildings. They're there, they've been designed for a purpose. So why should, say, the telephony channel not be as positive and engaging as the other channel? But what binds them all together is, if you get it right, it will reduce costs to you as an organisation. What I'd like to do now is to talk you through the first of two practical examples of our work at Premier Business Audio. Audio communication, and as I say, I'm really referring to calling experience. The great case study we'd like to share with you today is the Royal Borough of Kingston in London. And in a moment, I'm actually going to play the audio experience that they had before we got involved, and we tried to improve it. Okay, so I'm now going to play to you the previous Kingston audio experience.
Welcome to the Royal Borough of Kingston Housing Benefit Contact Centre. Just so you know, we record all calls to this number to help improve our service to you. I've now got 3 options for you to choose from. If your query is about housing benefits, please press 1. If you have a query about the Crisis Fund or Community Care Fund, please press 2. And if you have a query about a housing benefit overpayment, please press 3.
We're sorry to keep you waiting. Your call will be answered as soon as an advisor becomes available. Thanks for your patience. Your call will be answered as soon as an advisor becomes available. We're really sorry for the delay. We know you're holding, and an advisor will be with you soon. Alternatively, why not visit our website at www.kingston.gov.uk.
Okay, are you still there? I'm looking at the webinar invites and seeing all the drop-offs. Thankfully, they've not happened yet. That was a snippet of what Bringing Kingston was at one point. I say a snippet because, again, like many contact centres, there's times when you have large queues, and queues that are no fault of your own. It could be to do with the weather, it could be to do with a government announcement, you name it. The challenges, as you heard there, it's bland. It says nothing of the institution that is Kingston. And I'm sure you'll agree, listening to it, you're either going to switch off, or what are you more likely to do? Put the phone down. That costs the organisation money. The context of that we put in there in terms of just some of the high levels of running Kingston Council at that time. They were taking around 40,000 calls per month. Excuse me. About 2 or 3 different layers of voices. We only just played one snippet there. On certain lines, it was really bad. Option after option, option after option. And we also, there was lots of different ways of ringing the council, lots of different numbers, so inconsistency. And of course, as you heard there, when you were in queue, you only heard about how important your call is. I want to go on our website. How many times have we run call centres and had that same experience? What did it lead to for Kingston? Well, obviously, caller dissatisfaction. and those other elements I talked about before, people feeling that they're not, the council doesn't care. So Kingston really did care, and to Kingston it was, how do we change this? The way that we work with organisations, be it in the public or the private sector, is to actually sit down with them and really map out a number of key core things. What we don't do, and unfortunately many call centres fall into this trap, is go, oh God, music sounds awful, should we just get another light classical Vivaldi or Greensleeves? Yeah, that'll do. Well, as you know, so many organisations do that, and it's not acceptable. So what you have to do is really sit down, and in the case of Kingston, we sat down with those guys who were really passionate about, we've got to do something here, we've got to improve our experience, it's not acceptable. So part of the brief was some real key deliverables that they wanted to see. Improving the customer's experience was the big tick. Reducing abandonment rates, obviously, they've got large queues. Can we do something that keeps those calls hanging on the line so we can get to their call? Can we reduce the actual transaction times as well? And what we mean by this is the actual agent and household dialogue. So is there anything we can use in the telephony journey that can educate the caller so that when they actually finally speak to one of your agents or one of the team, the transaction is a lot smoother? And also change behaviour as well. Again, you heard the queue example before of, your call's really important to us, etc., etc., etc. That's not going to change my behaviour. The only thing it will do for me is make me get more and more irate the longer I hear that. So how can we use the calling experience to really influence the householder's behaviour for future reference? And also enhancing the contact centre's staff productivity, helping design a flow that routes callers to the right department with the minimum of fuss, which enables the specially trained agents on the seats in Kingston to deal with the callers that need it, and not having to say, I'm sorry, you seem like you pressed the wrong option there, I'm just going to route you through to the payments department. And all those elements combined enable us to come up with a creative brief and a creative audio. And I'm now going to play you the example of it, if I may.
Welcome to the Royal Borough of Kingston Housing Benefit Contact Centre. To enhance our service, we record and monitor calls. Here are 3 options. If you're calling about housing benefit, press 1. If you have a question about the Crisis Fund or the Community Care Fund, it's 2. And if you have a query about a housing benefit overpayment, choose 3. Thanks. We're putting you through now.
We all need a helping hand from time to time. So if you're on a low income, housing benefit may be the answer. Find out whether you are eligible for and apply for housing benefit online at kingston.gov.uk. The online form asks for lots of information, but everything is explained, so don't worry. If your circumstances change after you have signed on to receive housing benefit, please let us know. If you do not notify us and you receive too much housing benefit, you could be prosecuted for benefit fraud. Thanks for waiting. We'll be with you soon.
Thanks for calling. You're through to Alice. How may I help you?
Okay, so that gives you a little snippet of the work that we've provided for Kingston. And by the way, it's a very evolving, ongoing thing with those guys. Excuse me. So we introduced things like FAQs into the queue experience. Previously, it was just dead space. There was nothing there apart from your call's really important. Well, again, that says nothing. So now Kingston have this fantastic tool that they can use. If people are waiting to get answered, that they can introduce content that's relevant to them, that can influence the behaviour and is more positive and engaging. Now, of course, Kingston would ideally, like any organisation, say, look, ideally we don't want any queues, but we all know that the reality is there will be queues from time to time. The key is making that experience as positive and as engaging as it possibly can be. We tick the box from a brand perspective, which is a real challenge for a local authority, because again, unlike the Apples of this world, you're dealing with a hugely diverse organisation to a hugely diverse audience in a hugely diverse geographical area. But we also made the voices consistent, so that when people were travelling their way through the phone system, they felt that they weren't going to get lost in this telephony abyss. And on an ongoing basis, what's great working with Kingston and a lot of our customers is that we have a mandate to continue to deliver and map out the content for them on an ongoing basis. So trying to have regular reviews, checking that, say, the music and the language is fit for purpose. Because remember, your organisation, like us as individuals, is evolving. We're always changing. So it's important to have those checks and balances in there. As you can see there, the disc sort of format, it's a cyclical thing. You start at the top with calling Kingston. You know, that's the issue, that's where you are. You come up with a creative brief, and that continues to evolve on an ongoing basis. Just to give you some of the stats that Kingston were really happy to share with us. As you can see here in this lovely flowchart, this was the stats that we got from the council directly. And just to explain what they actually mean, the red line over a period of time highlights the number of calls that were coming into the contact centre over 2013. The green line is the as is in 2014, and the dotted line is what they're trying to achieve. What this really says, and why Kingston have been so pleased with the work that we've produced, is they have seen a marked drop-off in the number of calls coming into their call centre. And there's a number of reasons for it. The major one is the work that we have done to make the journey more engaging. And think about it, it's common sense really. If you're hearing more relevant information, you're less likely to abandon. If you're less likely to abandon, you stay on the line and you complete the transaction with the agent. You're less likely to put the phone down and ring back again, or get angry, or keep being passed from pillar to post. And they've really noticed a big downturn in the number of calls they're getting, because there's another factor here as well, which is publicising in a much more comprehensive, more effective way other channels that people can use that might be more appropriate. One of my big bugbears when I ring a call centre as a consumer is how often you're in a queue to buy something or complain and you get the following message, which is, why not go online? Well, unfortunately, I can't go online because I'm driving or I'm walking down the street. The problem is too many call centres think you can just shove a message into the queue space and say, go online. People are well aware of going online. What Kingston and ourselves have done is to try and highlight the benefits of going online for future dialogue. It might be quicker. It might be the fact that you can do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But ultimately, there's a host of stats that Kingston published with us, which was just brilliant. But I just wanted, because of the context of the time we've got today, really highlight this one as a real cost saving for the council. The average over the period is 20% in terms of reduction in calls, and they hope to see that continue. Okay. Now I want to talk for the remainder of the webinar on a second case study, and we refer it to visual communication. But as I mentioned at the start, this is very much around contact centres using things like their website in a better way to actually drive traffic, change behaviour, for people to go online, self-serve. The bottom line impact means less needless calls again coming into your contact centre, and actually more people and more of the calls that you want to deal with, and that's an important factor here, more of the calls that you want to deal with actually staying on the line and speaking to an agent. So, visual communication. The example we've got for you is with Enfield Council. The challenge for Enfield was, how do we change this? How do we improve the whole system? How do we use the tools that we've got at our disposal, such as going online, in a better way? So just as a sort of a flavour, and again I'm sure the people on this webinar today will sympathise. different letters generated for different purposes, lots of text, lots of words. And it went on and on and on and on. And a jumble. So it's a real challenge. So clearly, from Enfield's perspective, there was a number of things that really were damaging to their overall customer experience. Ultimately, these letters were creating unnecessary contact back into the centres. And again, thinking back to the damage that this was causing Enfield. The brand, of course. You know, people get these letters, they're confused, they don't understand it. What do? They pick up the phone, they're confused, they get angry. Operationally, again, reminding suddenly a huge influx of callers coming in every time there's a mail drop by Enfield Council. Surprise, surprise, the queues are getting longer and longer because Enfield doesn't have enough resource to answer those calls. People are getting more and more irate, they're putting the phone down in great numbers, and this creates this real vicious circle. And of course the customers or the householders themselves reduces their faith in the council. Scoring of the surveys that Enfield do on an ongoing basis would reduce, and the complaints as well would increase. So Gurkhan Yilmaz, who you can see on the screen, is our main contact at Enfield, and Gurkhan and his team are absolutely passionate about trying to make the customer communication as positive, as engaging and as relevant as it possibly can be. And I'm now going to play you a little example of what was involved, or what the context is. So what you'll see in front of you is a storyboard. And a bit like I showed you before about the creative brief, when we're designing video, and why we came up with the idea for video through Gurkhan was Gurkhan realised that, look, I'm generating all these letters, we still need to generate them. The public, we have a public duty to do it. But is there any way we can communicate and explain what all these letters mean in a much more easy, interactive way? And the key was for them was, let's try and come up with a better visual way of explaining our letters, so that in the longer term, when people are familiar with what the explanation of the letters are, the longer term means they're less likely to call the contact centre needlessly. So what you can see here is a number of different slides where we basically, again, like the audio experience, sat down and decide a creative brief. And we storyboarded it with our digital and our creative consultants, sat down with Gurkhan and his team and just mapped it out. You know, why would I get a letter? Talk me through that process. What does it tell me? What am I claiming it for? What are the things I can do on the back of it? And these series of storyboards, from a very simple, very basic way, started to develop into something much more powerful. So that by the end of it, we had a nailed creative brief which said, to Enfield Council, we have a way, a defined style that we think is reflective of the personality of Enfield that we can use to communicate better with our householders around explaining what letters are all about.
When we're designing our videos, we want to make them as dynamic as possible. So we include text and captions, and we'll highlight relevant parts of the letter. We'll use arrows, boxes, movement.
So that was just a real little snippet, but that was what you could get online for Enfield, because again, people could be pointed there, understand what it really means, but to try and make it in a way that is down to earth. And again, Enfield having a hugely disparate demographic of people of young and old from different ethnic backgrounds, trying to explain that. Likewise, we designed a signed version of every written correspondence that Enfield Council sends out, where previously those who were hard of hearing wouldn't be able to pick up the phone and speak to the contact centre. So we used it as a way of reaching out to more marginalised people in the community who need help and need assistance in a very different way from the people who can pick up the phone and give them real information. And on an ongoing basis, we're seeing lots of correspondence being developed ongoing. Just to give you a flavour of what the benefits were, and are, I should say, because this is an ongoing piece.
We've seen a good proportion of our customers visit the website, visit the links, watch the videos, and watch it as many times as they want in their own time. This is the start of what we hope is going to be a way forward, more videos and giving information easier. It's helping alleviate the impact on the call centre. It's helping the agents as well have a more pleasurable experience with our customers when we're talking with them.
Okay, I'll just pause our friend Gurkhan there. The interesting thing just to also highlight there, in terms of where these letters were broadcast or are broadcast, it's not just online, so from the comfort of your own home, going onto the website and reading all about what the letters mean. But as you saw on the video there, Enfield Council, like many councils, have a lot of people who are passing down the high street, popping into their local council offices to find out more information. So they use their computer terminals in their drop-in customer centres as a way of playing those videos. And again, it's a natural way of giving the customers or householders a better way to engage with the council. Apart from the things that Gurkhan was saying there was also some real fundamental operational benefits.
And we've seen our complaint levels go down. We've seen customer satisfaction levels go up. We've seen our call duration go down as well.
Okay. So there we have it. There we have two very distinct local authorities from two very different communication channels. In the case of Royal Kingston, their issue was trying to reduce abandonment rates, get people to the right team quicker. That has a big impact, and actually reducing the number of calls that come into the centre. And then for Enfield, using an alternative method of what was a traditional way of sending letters out to really get the message across. Make the experience clear. Get rid of the complicated text and jargon and explain it. Empower the agents and reduce those costs. And again, back to that slide that I mentioned at the outset really. Irrespective of what your remit is, whether it is communicating with your householders over the telephone or online or face-to-face, we know if you get the communication right, make it positive, make it engaging, it leads to so many benefits. It does reduce those needless calls. It does make your agents more productive. It does increase your customer satisfaction scores. It is another touch point that ticks the box of making it consistent. And fundamentally, it reduces the costs that you as an organisation have, which is the bottom line. Well, I think I've talked enough. If you've got any questions and you prefer to get in touch with us directly, there's my contact details. I'd be delighted to chat through. Even if it's just as a sounding board, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We're really passionate about improving customer experience, and if there's anything that we can do to get that across, then we will. Thank you very much for your time. As I say, I hope you've learned some new insights, and I look forward to hopefully speaking to some of you in the future. Thank you.